What's going on, guys? Adam again, back with Atomic Garage. And yes, you are sitting in the engine bay of my LS Swap W126, my 1987 Mercedes-Benz 420 SEL. So today we are going to talk about everything going on with this video. Coming up in this video. So yes, guys, for all of my OG viewers, this is the 1987 Mercedes-Benz SEL. It's the long version. Back doors are a tad bit longer, and I never could get the original engine to run. I could barely get it to run, but with this old German engineering with a distributor fuel injection system, it was a complete pain. And if everything wasn't working perfectly, then it wouldn't work at all. And that's exactly what I ran into with this car. So we're doing the most logical and possibly American thing to do. Pull out the foreign engine, drop in a American LS V8 and all of its glory. But then on top of that, we visit our China boys and we put a big old whopping turbo on it. So I'm gonna splice in a little bit of Instagram posts on different things that I've talked about and more in depth there. And we will talk about an overview of the car and the different things that I have done so far. So let's get started with the engine. So here we are. Front oil pan is on the engine, and I've got the engine somewhat mocked in how I want it. From here, what I need to do is put a plate right here. That's that plate. Put that plate there and do a little bit of a cardboard aided design and make the little ears for it so I can buzz everything in, cut everything to length, buzz everything in, and we should have some motor mounts. And I've got pretty decent amount of space on either side, so that's pretty awesome. So the engine, guys, came from a 2000, I believe, 2000 Chevrolet Silverado. It was crusty, it was nasty. Actually, let me show you the oil pan of what the inside of this thing looks like. There it is, guys. That's the oil pan. That's how crusty and nasty looking it is. Certainly, whatever farmer boy used this engine did not believe in changing the oil. But regardless of how it looked in the inside, we pulled everything apart besides pistons, and we left all that together. We put new head gaskets on it. We put a new cam in it, which would be a Sloppy Mechanic Stage 2, but I did not get the genuine one from Elgin. I actually went with a $100 eBay clone of it. And we're gonna test that and see how that does. We don't replace a whole bunch of stuff besides spark plugs, wires, and of course we put new Pac 12-18 springs because that cam has a 550 lift or something like that, which is more than the stock springs could utilize without floating. So we replaced those with Pac 12-18. Can't go wrong with that whatsoever. And other than that, this engine is completely stock. We did nothing else to it whatsoever. But in order to get this engine to fit inside of the car, I had to go with a front sump oil pan right down here. So in order to get the engine to fit, like I said, I had to get a front sump oil pan, and I ran into a ton of issues trying to get this front sump. And I'll be honest with you, it's not a ton of options out there that is cost effective. Even this one still ran me about 300 bucks. So that wasn't great. And what I didn't like about it was the oil pan had and bungs, which is no problem. But the problem was those and bungs were too close to the aluminum pan. So you couldn't even thread in an AN fitting because the ends of the AN fitting would clip. And we'll talk about that in another video. So here's the front sump oil pan, nothing too crazy to look at. And as we go further back, you can see the AN bungs right there and how I have it configured, lines going down and around, and then ultimately ending up here at the remote system for the oil filter. A little bit of fluid on there, and that's from power steering fluid wasting from the top. And for some reason, I thought I have cleaned all of it, but apparently not. But these are the lines that is basically the oiling system in its entirety of this engine. Very crucial. But regardless, we got the engine in with the front sump oil pan, and we finally got everything in after taking it in and out the car multiple times. Certainly that was annoying. But once the engine was in, things started to look up. We got the transmission mount made basically off of what was on the 4L60, which I forgot to mention. That's the transmission that we have, the 4L60. And I know the 4L80 is definitely stronger, but you know what? Get it running first, then make it perfect later down the road. So that trans probably won't last long, but maybe it will, who knows? And we'll have it in there for now. Then there were small things like these fittings that were needed to run the hard lines to the actual lines that came on the engine, small stuff like that. If you guys want parts or descriptions or anything like that, I can always get those to you guys either in another video or in the comment section. So be sure to check that. So the next thing was the exhaust, and what I used was flipped manifold. This little welder of mine, she gonna shine. Yo, this little welder is no joke. It burnt in these cast steel manifolds. I had to make some some modifications to it to adapt it to what we're doing here. And it turned out really good. Like, look at that. Look at that. Like, crusty cast steel to mild steel. Look at that. Bam. Look at that. Woo! That looks good. Now they both need to completely cool on their own so it doesn't crack. Then I've already let that one cool down. I flipped the manifold, driver's side and passenger, flipped those around, and then just did a cut from the original exhaust that was still part of the engine. Went on ahead and turned that downwards, and then all I had to do from there was build a crossover that would go down, around, and then back up on this side over here. Comes into the turbo, pretty nice and neat, and that wasn't too bad. It was pretty simple for the most part. I did not put a flex bendable piece in there. I've seen plenty of the builds without them, so I thought that should be good for the most part as well. And to be completely honest with you guys, welding this cast steel manifold wasn't hard at all. I used my regular titanium, that little small welder, turned it up and burned her in. And the only trick that I have found, they say to preheat them. I didn't preheat it at all. The main thing I did was let them cool naturally. Usually when I am going back and forth between pieces, I will dunk it in a bucket of water, rapidly cool it down, and go again. But I don't do that because the two different metals have different cooling and heating properties. So if you cool it down too fast, it will immediately crack. You will hear it and you will see the crack. So that's the only piece of advice that I have on building the manifolds. But that honestly went pretty good as well. And as you see, guys, a lot of this build is a no frills kind of thing. I'm not looking for it to be pretty right now. I'm not painting stuff and doing everything like that. The main thing is to get this bad boy running. That is the absolute main thing. Moving on from there, guys, is the actual intercooler kit itself, which you can see peeking its little head on down there. That is a barrel air to water intercooler, and it's got 3/4 inch water hose inlet and outlet, and I have a pump as well. The pump can be found right here in the wheel well. If you can see that hiding out right there. And I still have to finish plumb that up, but I'll have that. Then I'll have a transmission cooler as the heat exchanger, and I'll plumb it to come through here and around and back into the reservoir that I have there. So that's a pretty simple system. Yes, it costs more than just running an air-to-air intercooler, but unfortunately, I still don't believe that I have space for a air-to-air intercooler. I guess, yeah, you could say, oh, you could try and plumb it right there, but the inlet and outlet would have to go somewhat in through here. It doesn't leave you with a lot of real estate. As you see, it would be very it'd be very hard to try and get that. And not to mention that we still have the grill that needs to come down, not to mention the other coolers that I end up having to put on, like a transmission cooler that I right now do not have. And as you know, guys, this whole thing is a plug and play Holley Terminator X Max kit that I got straight from Holley. It was on back order for a while, but I lucked up and was able to get mine at a pretty reasonable time. Only waited like 2 or 3 months. In that time period, it gave me the chance to do all of this first, and the last thing was literally draping wires over and then finding power and ground. And as you see, I did not yank out a lot of the old stuff. I left them together and just zip tied them to the side, get them out the way, because I didn't know what I could take away and everything else would still work. So because I didn't know that, and knowing that German engineering as a whole can be very finicky, I didn't want to chance it whatsoever. And for the very reason that I didn't want to chance it is the reason that I have this relay here and this circuit breaker here. This relay and circuit breaker is for the fuel pump system. I didn't want to take any chances on trying to use the old fuse box for stuff like this. I didn't want to take any chances like this. So if the car fries all of its own electronics, my stuff, the Holley stuff, the LS stuff will all be fine, because I have them separate. Really, the only thing that I'd have to worry about is a key on power, and push come to shove, I can always hot wire it to the battery if the whole car is dead and still make it home. So I feel really good about that. I ran a lot of new power, a lot of new grounds, made a lot of grounds. I have a lot of redundant grounds as well. That's one thing that I learned working with electrical things, working with Toyota and Lexus. They are really big on redundancies, and it sounds crazy, but redundant grounds. A ground here, a ground there, a ground there, another ground over there. Like, I've got multiple grounds connecting the battery to the chassis, the engine to the chassis, the ECU to the chassis. Everything is fully grounded, because you'll get weird problems when you have weird grounding issues. Take it from me, I've been down that rabbit hole before with other things. And honestly, guys, I haven't fired it up many times, because the main thing I need to do is build this exhaust, because it is so rich. It is pouring straight fuel directly onto the engine, and I find a problem with that. So I don't want to keep doing that. I need to build that exhaust, and from there get a boost source reference from the turbo, since I didn't tap the turbo, for my wastegate, and then we can start trying to tune it. Small little fun fact, in order for this engine to fit without me replacing the gearbox for the steering, I end up having to do a 3-inch drop idler arm that takes the turning force from one side all the way to the next. I had to drop it down because obviously it would hit the transmission here. So that's what we made. We tried to reinforce it and weld her up, and she is super strong. Also had to cut, flip, and drop that idler arm mount right there. It may not be pretty, but by golly, it sure does look like it's gonna work pretty good. It is pretty stiff and hardcore. So that's a small little thing that had to be done. If I did not do this, then I would be cutting out this entire subframe here. I'd have to cut that entire thing out and completely do a rack and pinion, and it would have made this project take even longer than it did so far. As you guys can see, new hoodie, fresh shave. It's another day, but this build was not all that hard, to be 100% honest with you. It was time consuming, pulling the engine in and out multiple times, doing the exhaust work, stuff like that takes weekends to do, because I only have Saturday and Sunday early morning if I wake up. So I did not film a lot of it because I did not get to enjoy the BMW. I have been killing myself to make sure I can build this so I can eventually enjoy it way faster than the BMW. If you guys remember, turboing that thing took a lot of time, and it took the car off the road, and I don't want to have this. with this. I want to be able to hop in this car on any given day, fire it up, and drive 2 hours away, 4 hours away, take a road trip, Hollyfest. All the stuff that I would like to do is what we're trying to do with this. It's going to be a 4-door party machine with this big turbo that'll eventually get upgraded. And I just can't wait to move forward with this project in all its glory. So we're currently at the part of the build where it's small stuff now. Dump pipe for the wastegate, exhaust, drive shaft, tires. We are really close to letting this thing move and drive under its own force. So I feel really good about it. So there it is, guys. That's all to it. This is not a crazy build. If there's any questions that you have in the comment section below, let me know. I know LS swap stuff doesn't really do all that well on YouTube unless you're doing a LS swapped Lamborghini or something, which I don't have the budget for. But yeah, here's the project. It's pretty simple and straightforward. If I can do it, you can do it. And I subscribe to a couple different channels like the Driveway Engineer, A21 Bravo, different guys like that. Slapping Mechanics, obviously, because if those guys can run boats on with impacts and turn 7s and stuff at the drag strip, then I'm sure I can be a little bit more meticulous in a few small things and have just as much luck and result. And I'm hoping that's truly going to be the case. So that's it for this video, guys. It's nothing too crazy. Just a LS swap vehicle that you can do in your own backyard, in your own driveway, in your own garage, and make a bunch of spoolie noises. Yeah. So with all that being said, I still have a few things that I need to do, and I'm still waiting on the UPS man to show up so I can get started on the rest of this car to try and finish it up, because I want to fire it up. I want a data log. I want to get it remote tuned. And I know this is a setup that should go very, very, very easily compared to what I've dealt with before. So that's it for me, guys. Comment section below. Let me know what you think about the build, what you think about everything that has been done so far. Any questions or comments or anything that catches your eye of concern or that you want to know about, let me know. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.